What is the worst case you've ever seen?
She lost all of the tissue from her knees right up her back.
Another tragic story of cosmetic surgery gone wrong.
What are your red flags when you're looking for a surgeon?
Anytime you are injecting something into your face, you can have really very serious consequences.
Substances which can cause injuries like this.
I didn't learn well, I didn't study well. I also now know that I had ADHD.
Who is the most famous person you've ever done a case for?
It is a TV personality that you would definitely know. I think the grand total we got to was...
Welcome back to another episode of Passenger Princess. Today, I'm joined with Chrissy Wolfe. Chrissy is a plastic surgery lawyer, a content creator, a public speaker, and she runs her own legal practice. But Chrissy's journey hasn't been easy. She botched her A-levels, but still had the determination and drive to become a lawyer. With a following of over 150,000, Chrissy's story has inspired so many people, and now she's here to take us on her journey. So you deal with plastic surgery cases that have gone wrong on a daily basis. What is the worst case you've ever seen?
The worst case that I've ever seen is probably one of the worst offenders in terms of the type of surgery. It is the Brazilian butt lift. And it was
BBL?
BBL. It is absolutely horrendous. It's a really, really high risk procedure. The worst case I had was a lady who'd gone abroad for surgery. She'd had a butt lift and she caught necrotizing fasciitis after the procedure, and she lost virtually all of the tissue from her knees right up to the middle of her back, and it was absolutely horrendous.
That is horrendous. I actually don't even know what to say. I don't know what I was expecting you to say, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, it's gruesome. It's a really gruesome area of law. You do really develop quite a strong stomach around it from photos and now videos.
So you botched your A-levels and you still managed to become a lawyer. Let's go right back. How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, it would seem that botching is the theme of my life. You've only just connected those two things. So I did botch my A-levels. There is quite a long story behind that, but it's quite an interesting story. I was actually home educated by my mum.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and this was back in the 90s. So this was when home education wasn't really a thing at all. I was home educated by my mum, and we lived in this crazy, chaotic house that was filled with animals because my mum absolutely loved animals. And I actually grew up really wanting to become a vet. That was just what I was obsessed with wanting to be. And I ended up going to school for my GCSEs because my mum got to a point where she felt happier sending me to school for GCSEs because she kind of got to a point where she didn't think she could teach me that level of science and maths and things I was going to go on to do. And I actually did okay in my GCSEs because she taught me pretty much everything I needed to know for those. But then it got into A-levels where I actually had to learn in the school environment, and I'd never been in that kind of environment before. Like, I hadn't been in a social group. It was all really new, and it was that timing when you're kind of going through puberty and there's a lot of life stresses going on around that time. So I really just didn't learn. Like, I didn't learn well, I didn't study well, and as a result of that, I really, really screwed up my A-levels. I also now know that I had ADHD. I got late diagnosed with ADHD, and that really explains quite a lot to do with why I struggled so much in the school environment, which I didn't know at the time. So had to totally rethink my life at that point because I wasn't going to become a vet. I knew from prior to my A-levels I wasn't going to get 3 A's and get into vet school. But my plan had been to do an undergraduate in bioscience and then change later and do vet as a postgrad. But I didn't get my conditional offers at uni either because I missed out on my predicted grades. So I missed out on all my conditional offers.
What did you get? What grades did you get?
This is tough to say, but I've got more used to it now. CDEE. Is what I got at A-level.
CDEE, but you still managed to become a lawyer.
I still managed to become a lawyer, yeah. By some stretch of the imagination, I did. So I got those grades. I missed all my conditional offers, didn't get into any of those universities, and everyone said, oh, you've got to go through clearing, or, you know, you need to basically just go to a college or something, or reset your A-levels. And I just didn't want to do that. I had my heart set on going to Birmingham University. I'd fallen in love with it. I had a conditional offer from there. And I just got on the phone to them, and admissions said, no, can't get in with those A-levels. Phoned up loads of different departments, and they all said, no, like, we have no degree course that you can do with those A-levels. They're just terrible, give up. And then eventually eventually I got through to a really nice lady in the chemistry department who said, well, they're right, we don't have any degree courses you can do, but we do have a foundation course that you can do, which is like an access course. And she said, unofficially, if you do really well in that foundation course, then you can get straight access into one of our degree courses, including the one that you wanted to go on. So for me, I was like, absolutely, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to reset my A-levels. I didn't see that I was going to do any better. So I did that. I got first in my foundation year, and then I re-entered the course I always wanted to do, which is biological science. So yeah, skip forward 4 years and I got my 2-1 in bioscience from Birmingham University.
So, and I think that just goes to show how important it is to, if you get your A-level results back and you've botched them, or you've fucked them, as I would say, there is actually always a way that you can manage to get to the career that you want to be in.
Yeah, I think it can look really black and white, and it can look really linear. If you fail, you have to go down this path, you have to go through clearing. But I would definitely be creative in that scenario. Don't just listen to what everyone else tells you. The process is, because if I hadn't made all of those phone calls and basically just taken matters into my own hands, I definitely wouldn't have been doing that course. I would have done a completely different course, maybe reset my A-levels, just done something that I really didn't want to do.
And how helpful that lady on the phone said to you, you can actually do a foundation course when you probably didn't even know that existed.
Exactly. She thought outside the box. Everyone said you just don't. There's no degree course, and which was true. But she obviously could see where I was trying to get to.
But there was a way to get to a degree course. That's
exactly
the most important
exactly
part.
That. So yeah, I was about to give up, and it was that last phone call before I was really going to give up, and it just changed absolutely everything. Yeah.
So how did you go from doing a bioscience degree to becoming a lawyer? Because that's again a big jump.
Yeah, big jump. So I'd never thought about being a lawyer ever. It was like the complete opposite of everything that I thought I wanted to do. Like, I was an outdoorsy girl. I wanted to work with animals. The thought of being in an office and contracts and grey suits was just not for me at all. So the reason I ended up doing law actually was because when I got to the end of that biosciences degree, I was staring down the barrel of doing like another 4 or 5 years at vet school if I wanted to convert to vet. And I thought, I've already been at university for 4 years. All my friends are going out getting jobs. I don't want to be studying anymore. Like, I want to get out there. But I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I'd been wedded to this idea of becoming a vet for my whole life. So I went to the careers advisor at Birmingham University and I said, look, I'm stuck. What does anyone do with this degree now? And he got his pie chart out and he looked at what people did, and some people did research, and I didn't want to go into research. Some people did teaching, also didn't want to go into teaching. And then he said, actually, a really popular thing to do with a science degree is go into law. And I thought, how do those two things go together? That doesn't make any sense to me. And then he talked to me about medical law, and I didn't realise at that point,
Of course.
I hadn't put 2 and 2 together, there was basically a law for literally anything that you can imagine. There is a law that goes with it. And when he started telling me about his friend, who was a medical lawyer, he told me all these things that he did, all these cases he was working on. I thought, that sounds fascinating. I really want to look into that. Started looking into it, and then pretty much fell in love with that career path then and there and set my sights on that.
And what is the journey between switching from a non-law degree to becoming a lawyer? Because I know, but I can't quite remember, and you're the expert, so.
So it's changed slightly now, but back then you had to do a law conversion course if you wanted to convert from a non-law degree to a law degree, essentially, or to become a lawyer. So there is a 1-year conversion course that you needed to do, followed by something called the legal practice course, the LPC.
Yes.
So you have to do those two things together, and then you had to secure a training contract, which is like a 2-year on-the-job training, a bit like an apprenticeship, but specifically for law, and then you qualify at the end of that.
Okay. I remember that now. So whilst you're speaking, I was thinking about being at Burgess Salmon and an LPC and a training contract and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think that's another great thing to note, is that you can become a lawyer even if you didn't study a law degree, which a lot of people still don't seem to know.
It's even easier now, actually, in the sense that you don't need to do that law conversion course, but the exam that you now need to take to become a lawyer is quite tricky. It's not easier overall, but there's one less step that you don't have to do that conversion course. You just have to study for what's called the SQE exams now. Okay,
so there's currently no law that governs who can inject dermal fillers, so you don't even have to be a healthcare professional. What are your views on this? Because you can literally get your lips done in someone's back garden shed.
Yeah. So I do both surgical and non-surgical cosmetic cases. If you're a surgeon, then you are regulated. You do have to be a qualified licensed surgeon in order to perform surgery, but you're right in the fact that if you are injecting things like Botox, filler, you do not need to be in any way qualified, trained, regulated in order to do that in England. It has caused a lot of issues, and I would say probably 70 to 80% of the cases that I see are as a result of unlicensed practitioners.
Wow.
And about 20% is licensed practitioners. Things can still go wrong with licensed practitioners. It doesn't, it doesn't prevent there being any risk if you go to someone who's qualified, but most of my cases are from unqualified practitioners.
So why are people at such a risk to these people that are injecting filler and Botox, etc., in their back garden with no licence?
Both Botox and filler are high-risk procedures. Anytime you are injecting something into your face, it's an incredibly complex part of the body. There are veins, there are arteries, and if you inject into the wrong place, you can have really very serious consequences. And the consequences of people who are not medically trained injecting are catastrophic in some cases. And it really, really is so important that you go to somebody who understands facial anatomy, is properly trained, medically trained in the anatomy, because it's so complicated and the consequences are so dire. I think if somebody gave me £10 million to reduce the number of injuries specifically in cosmetic surgery or specifically in aesthetics, I would put it into educating the public about how serious the consequences can be of things going wrong.
So a lot of people nowadays are going abroad to have surgery because it's cheaper than having it done in the UK. What are the risks of doing that?
I would not recommend going abroad for surgery for a number of reasons. First of all, it's really hard to know whether you are actually going to a reputable practitioner or not, because in different countries they have different rules and laws around advertising, around licensing, and it's actually really difficult to know if the person you're going to is properly regulated in that country, if they have the proper qualifications. A lot of the time people look on Instagram and see they've got lots of followers or they've had celebrities going there, and that does not mean anything. You can literally buy both of those things. You can buy followers, you can buy celebrity endorsements, and it doesn't have anything to do with how good a surgeon you are. And actually some of the time it's actually the opposite. You know, people who do put a lot of money into their marketing and using influencers often don't have the credentials to back them up. So it's really scary to be relying on something like that. You should not be relying on those sorts of endorsements. I think the second thing is that...
Isn't it, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal to promote injectables specifically in the UK and surgery. So if someone came to me and said, oh, we want to give you a face of Botox for £5,000, £10,000, £20,000, however much they're going to pay me, I think that's illegal.
The problem with that is that a lot of people get an entirely different level of service if they're an influencer, because they appreciate that person has the power to make or break the business. So they roll out the red carpet, they give them a 5-star service, and then that person quite legitimately goes on social media and gives a very genuine account of the experience that they have had, but that is not representative of the experience that the average person will have going to that clinic.
Very true.
So that's the problem. It's not that influencers or celebrities are disingenuous, they're not lying about the treatment they've had, it's just that their experience is likely to be very different to the one that anyone else would have if they went there.
Yeah, that is very true. I never even thought about that. Roll out the red carpet.
Yeah,
literally.
They do, yeah. So going abroad, there are just a number of additional complications. Firstly, that you don't always know who you're going to, because it's not always easy to trace the qualifications of people in foreign countries because they have different standards over there. There's also added complications with travelling around surgery in terms of added risks of infection. Also, when you come back, if you have an issue when you come back, it's not always easy to get that treated because you can't always treat things remotely. And again, you've got huge issues with potential infection if you then try and fly back, and then you might not be able to find someone to treat you in the UK because the NHS are not trained specifically on cosmetic related issues because they don't offer them on the NHS. So NHS staff don't often know how to treat you if you've had a complication. And often private surgeons or clinics in the UK don't want to pick it up either because they're worried they might get caught up in a possible chain of a negligence claim from someone else. So it can be really difficult to actually get any issues resolved if you've had surgery abroad and you've come back to the UK. So for a number of reasons, you can just get into a lot more difficulty if you go for surgery abroad. It's not necessarily that the quality of the surgery is any worse. There are some brilliant surgeons abroad, but it's just the risk of complication is higher and the issues with treating those complications are much more significant.
Yeah. So if it's possible for you, have your surgery in the UK and don't leave.
Yeah, I would always say that. You've also got insurance in the UK, which
Yeah.
is another big problem with going abroad. You don't always have insured.
Right.
It's not always legally required for surgeons to have insurance. So if you do end up trying to sue, then it can be difficult. And also legally, you may not be entitled to sue in that country or in your home country. There's
Yeah.
a whole other raft of legal
Yeah.
issues if you try and sue
So
when you've had surgery
basically,
abroad.
in other words, avoid at all costs.
I absolutely would just save up the extra money. It is more expensive to have it in the UK quite often, but that's because there are increased regulations in the UK. You do have to have minimum insurance, which costs more. You do have to have a certain type of premises, which costs more. You do have to keep all of your regulations and training in line, which costs more. So it does cost more to have it in the UK, but it's the price of protection.
So for anyone listening or watching that's considering getting surgery, what are your green flags and your red flags when you're looking for a surgeon?
Red flags if surgeons are overly salesy with you. So they try and upsell procedures to you, or they're selling packages of procedures, or they're going online and talking about all the great offers that they have. All of those things are major red flags. Also, if they have a bad bedside manner, like if they don't listen to you very much, or they try and tell you what you need instead of you telling them what you want. They should never suggest procedures to you. You should go in and say, this is what my concern area is, and they should tell you things that might resolve that problem. In certain cases with aesthetics, they might tell you that if you want to change a certain feature, that actually to balance that out, that you might need something else. But that's different to just upselling you a procedure for a totally different area of your face. That
If
should
you
never
get
happen.
if you get a boob job, then the BBL's half price.
Yeah. Or, you should really consider, if you go in because you've got, you're concerned about your nose, and then they start saying, oh, actually, you know what, you could do a bit of a chin filler there, and, your jawline's not very strong. That's a really big red flag. They should not be creating insecurities in you that you don't have.
Yeah.
That's a big no-no.
And green flags?
Green flags, I'm terrible at green flags because I only ever see the red flags. Green flags, I would always say having a great bedside manner is a green flag. Really go with your gut on these things. Actually, if you walk into a consultation and you feel immediately at ease and they listen to you and you feel confident and you feel happy, that's a green flag. If you go in and even if you're going to a really reputable surgeon who comes really highly recommended, if you don't feel comfortable, then that's a sign to get out. Don't override that. If something is telling you that something's wrong, then don't ignore that, even if they come really highly recommended. So,
and what are the qualifications that if someone's looking at a surgeon and they're trying to figure out if they're qualified enough or not, which you should know really anyway, but going back to the basics, what qualifications does a surgeon have to say give a boob job?
So you should always go on the GMC register and check that they have a GMC registration. If you are having plastic surgery, then you want to check that they have a specialist registration for plastics as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of a baseline point to look at. There's a couple of organisations that you can look at as well online where you can find reputable surgeons specifically in plastics and cosmetics. So BAPRAS is one of them, BAPRAS, and the other one is the BAAPS. If you go on those websites, they will give you a list of accredited specialist cosmetic surgeons to choose from.
That is so helpful, and I never even knew that existed. And what is the most amount of money you've ever won for a client?
I think the biggest settlement that I've ever had in my career it was when I was at my previous firm, and I think the grand total we got to was 7.2 million.
Million pounds?
In damages.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that was a really long-winded case that went on for several years. In fact, a
Wow.
lot of these cases do go on. Medical negligence cases and injury cases can go on for several years because it takes a really long time to quantify those damages because a lot of it is based on the prognosis of the injury. And when you've got a really serious injury, you actually need to reassess prognosis, potentially on a 6-monthly, yearly basis to see if that changes. And you can't settle the case until medical experts are happy that they've got a long-term prognosis and the injury isn't going to change anymore. So actually when you've got serious injuries, they take a really long time to accurately settle.
Wow, £7 million. It's crazy. So, as a beauty lover, I've got something for you to try. I think you're going to like. These are the Nutri supplement gummies. There's 3 different types. I'm going to give you the beauty one first because I feel like this is the most on brand for you.
It is very on brand.
Yeah. Basically, these are gut friendly, so they've got no added sugars or sweeteners.
Okay, amazing.
And I'm going to get you to tell me what you think, how good do you think it tastes?
Is it like, is it apple?
So these ones are blueberry flavoured.
Oh, blueberry.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the green was making me think it was going to be apple.
Nice. For a supplement gummy.
Yeah, I really like that actually. I take vitamin gummies. Like my multivit is a gummy, so I'm quite a fan of a gummy, and also my sea moss is a gummy.
Yeah. So these
I'm very pro a gummy.
These have biotin, vitamin E, and vitamin C in, so they help with your hair, skin, and your nails.
Amazing. I actually haven't taken it today, so I'm actually really happy that you gave me that.
There you go. You've had it now, and you can have more because
amazing.
Different ones.
Thank you. Big fan of the gummy.
These are for immunity, so in other words, they stop you getting poorly. And these are raspberry flavoured. These taste really good.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna like a raspberry. That's probably one of my favourite.
So you can have two of these a day.
Okay.
So I like to put all 6 in a bowl after my dinner and have like a little bowl of sweeties. But they're healthy. They're like healthy sweeties. Nice.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah, I would definitely put both of those into my little gummy routine.
And there's one more.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So these are calming. They've got ashwagandha in, and they're great for giving you a fabulous night's sleep. They also make you feel quite calm. They're not going to send you to sleep now because I'm only going to give you one.
Okay, because I've got a lot of travelling to do today. Yeah.
These are great if you're someone that gets stressed a lot. You need to have a moment of calm. You need to relax.
That's definitely 100% me.
I would recommend giving these a go before bed and just seeing if you get a better night's sleep. Yeah?
I like that one
These
too.
are strawberry flavoured.
Yeah, I was going to say it's quite similar to the raspberry one.
Delicious. I love that they're all berry flavoured. I hate things that are like orange flavoured. Like, why would you not choose a berry?
But they also taste really juicy. Sometimes you can, like the gold bears, like Haribo, just taste like synthetic. That actually tastes like a fruit.
They taste like sweeties. I love them. I'm glad you like those. I'm going to give you some to take home.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So if social media didn't exist, do you think people would be getting as much surgery as they do now? Or do you think as humans, we're just insecure?
If social media didn't exist, there is no way that there would be as much surgery as there is now. I don't believe that for a second. I believe that a lot of it comes from unrealistic beauty standards that are set by celebrities, influencers, Instagram filters, etc., TikTok filters. I think a huge amount of it comes from that. From the cases that I see, the amount of people who have gone for procedures to say they want to look like X, or they want to look like this filter, or they want to look like someone who's clearly
Can you actually
airbrushed AF.
imagine going in to see a surgeon and say, I want to look like this filter on Instagram?
But this happens. This is really common. This is what people do. It's really common, actually. And I can see why. I can see why it happens, because so much of social media is filtered, and it's really hard to tell what's filtered and what's not. And a lot of people, you think they look like that, but they don't look like that. It's a filter, or it's airbrushing, or it's editing. But actually, that's not what we see. That's not how our brain works. We see something and we can't pick apart that necessarily. If you're in the industry, absolutely, like you know about editing. But actually, if you don't know about the industry, and you don't know that happens, or you don't know how filtering works, and you think that you would be able to recognise it, and you don't know how sophisticated it is and how subtle it can be, then actually,
you can edit now. Now you can edit video. So I can, on my CapCut, make my nose smaller, my waist smaller, my legs bigger, my bum bigger, my waist smaller. You can notice it. Like, I can notice when people do it because there's tiny things that give it away. But I guarantee 99% of people watching that, if someone's edited it on a video, they wouldn't notice, which is scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the role models for a lot of people. Everybody wants to look like, now currently it's everybody wants Lindsay Lohan and Christina Aguilera, they are, and Kris Jenner. I think a lot of that is actually very well done surgery, but the pictures that you are seeing, and you're only ever going to see pictures or videos of those people unless you happen to meet them in real life, they are always going to be edited and airbrushed because of the situations that they find themselves in. So it's impossible to go to a surgeon and say, I want to look like that person. Or the classic one is, I want the same procedures that this person has had done. But actually, that's also completely wrong, because they've had a certain set of procedures that fit their existing features and their face and their skin tone and all of their symmetry. So actually, having the same procedures would not give you, as an individual, the same result as it would give that person, because it's tailored to their features.
Yeah, and I have seen it's like almost a bit of a trend now. of people getting facelifts because Kris Jenner has. And really, Kris Jenner's gone to probably the most expensive facelift surgeon in the USA.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that result from a mediocre surgeon. And it's like people are getting them now, oh, you should get your facelift in your 40s because when you're 60 it's too late. No, she's just had it done by an amazing surgeon. It's not going to look that good every time.
And every face is different. I mean, for some people, maybe it is right to get a facelift at 40, but you can't take what someone else has done and say that that would be right for you without seeing a surgeon who's actually going to look at your face and decide what's right for your skin and what you want to achieve. So you can't really transpose it from a celebrity onto you. And actually, a lot of cowboys often do this. When a procedure's been made popular, they will say, oh, we're offering the such and such package. I had this back in 2018, actually. There was a big rise of the Meghan package after Meghan Barton-Hanson on Love Island.
Wow.
Because she had a huge number of procedures done and surgeons, particularly abroad, actually capitalised on that and called it the Meghan package and said, we are offering these sets of procedures that she had, which is just such a red flag because that was one individual. So saying we're going to offer you that same package that she had as an objective package to people without taking into account individuals is insane. But she did so well on that show and she was so popular that everybody wanted to look like her. And, you know, some people just, you know, saw that opening, saw that marketing spot for that demand and capitalised on it. And I had a number of people ending up on my desk because of it.
So you've built a big following on social media from talking about being a lawyer and talking about ADHD and talking about not doing well in your A-levels. How has social media benefited your career as a lawyer?
Hugely. I wouldn't now be running my own practice, I don't think, if it wasn't for social media. I think that's been a huge benefit to me in terms of boosting my profile and actually allowing me to go independent, because it's actually quite rare for lawyers to go independent and set up their own practice. It's more common to follow the partnership model all the way up and actually stay employed. But because I'd built the platform that I'd built and I had a really supportive community of people that actually wanted to help me set up and also turned into clients, that really was the thing that enabled me to set up on my own. So social media has been absolutely instrumental for me in terms of my career journey to date.
And how did you start off on social media? Because, I mean, for me, I used to work in a law firm and it was like unheard of for lawyers to post on social media. I mean, I think I was one of the first people to ever post from a law firm, my little lift pictures.
I remember it.
And my day in the life. I mean, that's basically how we know each other from back then.
Yeah.
So for you to do that, but you were a lawyer in a law firm, you had to really kind of break the mold. So how did you do that without anyone caring?
Yeah, I think I decided to observe the mantra of ask for forgiveness and not permission.
Yeah.
Which again is probably slightly anti the mold for a law firm. I don't know where I got the audacity, in all honesty. Looking back, I had just so much audacity and
so much confidence.
And I don't know, honestly, I don't know where it came from, but I thought I really wanted to take my mentoring online, because I was mentoring a lot of people one-to-one, because I had quite an unusual journey into law, and actually a lot of people who had my credentials would probably have given up, because it's really, really hard to secure a training contract with poor A levels. Getting a degree was one thing. I then had that same pain all over again when I was trying to secure a training contract, because even though I had my 2-1 from a good university, they also, law firms, when they're offering you a training contract, also look back at your A levels, which I thought I was done with. So I was rejected by everyone so many times. I think a lot of people would have given up. A lot of people assume that you have to have great A levels and there is no point trying to become a lawyer if you don't have those A levels. So I felt really strongly about wanting to tell that story, that I managed to get around that so that other people would also have someone to follow, to say, okay, well, if she did it, then I can do it. And I wanted to really have that conversation and make that known. And so I took on a load of mentees, but actually I was doing my training contract and I was newly qualified and I had quite a lot of work on at the same time, and I had 3 mentees, and I thought, I don't think I can really legitimately take on any more in person, because I just don't have the capacity to give them what I want to give them. And one of my best friends was a YouTuber, so she actually YouTubed about Disney, and she had like 25,000 followers, and I thought, hey, maybe I can do this online. Like, maybe I'll just move this mentoring online, and maybe a handful of people will watch it, and that actually means I'm kind of sort of mentoring those people online. So I just thought, why not? And I did kind of run it past my boss, because I had a really great boss at the time, and he was super chill, and he was just like, yeah, sounds great, fine. So I was like, cool, great. Like I've got authority to do it. So I just started, and I called my YouTube channel Law and Broader, because I also really wanted to show people that you can actually have a life and do stuff outside of law. So I did alternate videos, law one week and then something broader the next week. Also, it kind of sounded like a pun on Law and Order, which I quite liked. But broader was kind of all sorts of stuff, but it had quite a heavy focus on cars. Because
you love your cars.
Loved my cars. Was super into cars at the time. Used to date a mechanic many years ago who got me into cars and engines and all that stuff. So quite a lot of my broader videos focused on cars.
Yeah.
So
and your YouTube channel also landed you your dream Porsche.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. Because I was doing these videos about cars and I started vlogging at dealerships. I actually built up a really good relationship with Porsche, and I actually drove their 911 for their 70th anniversary promo video, which was just the most amazing day ever. And there was this Porsche that I really, really wanted and just never thought I would get. It's a GT4. And I never thought I would get it because you have to be like a form. You have to have owned, I think, at least 3 Porsches before to be able to get one. And I'd owned no Porsches before. Like the best car I had before that was a Toyota GT86, which I loved, and it was a great car, but it was nothing like a Porsche. But I'd always wanted one. And this particular person, I won't say who it is in case I get them in trouble, but this particular knew that I really wanted GT4. And I thought it was going to be years before I got one, but actually he just got in touch with me one day and said, I've got my allocations of GT4 coming. I'm supposed to have 4 cars coming, which were all allocated to the appropriate customers, but I seem to have a 5th one which is unallocated, and I just wondered if you still wanted one. And it was like, I just jumped out of my seat. I was like, yes, of course I do. That kind of was really as a result of my YouTube channel.
And because you followed your passion, it meant that you ended up getting something that you might not have been able to get.
Yeah, and from a relatively modest YouTube channel at the time, I was not a pro vlogger. I'm not like Supercar Blondie. I was not like one of those at all. I was just kind of doing it for fun, but I was just really passionate about it and really interested in it, and just built up really good relationships with everybody that I met and everyone that I videoed, and and that's where it ended up.
People don't realise getting a Porsche. Getting some of the Porsche specs is like getting a Mini Kelly. You've got to have bought a Birkin and a Kelly and another Birkin, and then you get offered a Mini Kelly. So like you can get a 911, you can get a Macan, but getting a GT3 or a GT4 is harder. It's like a game, isn't it?
We've had like opposite but similar journeys, because I am desperate for a Birkin, and I know you really want a Porsche. So maybe we should just arrange like swap
maybe
days.
We should just literally. And what would your top piece of advice be for any aspiring lawyers?
I would say build your brand, build your own personal brand. If you don't know where to start with that, just start by going on LinkedIn, start by commenting on other people's posts, turn those comments into your own posts, comment on issues that are going on in the profession, be authentic, talk about things that are bothering you, things that are interesting you, and really start getting your voice out there, because it is a really competitive market and it's a really saturated market. So it's really important that you have your own voice and you can actually make a name for yourself and start making those connections. And you might not have the ability to do that in person. You might not have the events or the connections to do that, but actually you can do that online. LinkedIn is free. Anyone can use it. Anyone can start up a LinkedIn account and start interacting with the sorts of people that you would like to be employed by in the future. Follow those people, connect with those people, DM those people and ask for opportunities. Really maximize the opportunities that you've got in the online world, because it's much easier to connect with people than it ever has been before.
So you're about to launch your own business, well, another one. Tell me a bit about it, because this is very interesting.
It is, yeah. So I am in the process of launching my own brand. So I already run my own legal practice on a platform law firm called Nexa. And the reason why I joined Nexa is because I really wanted to start my own practice. There were a lot of things that I wanted to do differently, particularly in terms of the way that I wanted to work with clients and the way that I wanted to bring on the next generation of lawyers. So I wanted to set up my own practice, but it's actually quite grueling to do that independently. There's a huge amount of regulation, insurance. It actually puts a lot of people off starting their own practices. So
But not you.
Well, not me, but I've done it a kind of slightly unconventional way, and I've joined this platform law firm called Nexa, where you do run your own practice off their kind of overall overarching umbrella. And what I am able to do with them is also launch my own brand from their platform as well. So I can trade under my own brand, and I can build my own practice in the way that I want to with my own values, hire my own people, and put in place my own systems. So that's what I'm working towards at the moment, which I am really excited about, because it's just something that I've been so passionate about for such a long time, particularly with this area, cosmetic surgery and aesthetics. It's something which I feel really strongly about in terms of improving standards and actually improving standards of patient care, but also client care for medical negligence cases in this area. So I'm just really excited about it, and more to come. I can't say too much about it now because I haven't fully launched yet, but there will be more on that coming in the new year.
It's very you, and it's nice. I've kind of watched you go from, I remember when you were working in a law firm, then you moved to do this, then you were in Dubai, and then you're back, and then you're in Dubai, and then you're back, and you've just done so many different things. I don't know how you keep up.
I really enjoy.
Chrissy told me she had an event tonight, so I may say. She was like, oh, I'm free until this time, I've got an event. And then when she got here, she was like, yeah, so I'm going to get the train to Brussels at 7:30. I was like, the event's in Brussels. Like, you're so casual. Like, I just don't know how you do it.
I think
I
it's
thought
the
I was
ADHD.
busy. You were busy.
It's the ADHD. I really enjoy it. So, I have had quite a varied career in terms of, even when I was working as a lawyer, I had my side hustle, which was my YouTube channel, and that morphed into events and mentoring and public speaking. And then after I left my law firm, I was also consulting for law firms and legal businesses as well. And I was consulting as well with a company called the Digital Legal Exchange, which was facilitating digital and tech transformation in in-house teams. And I just love the law. Like, I love practicing, but I also love the business of law. Like, I love the operations. I love how tech is changing the landscape. And I'm really invested in educating the current, but also the next generation of lawyers on actually the really cool bits about the law, which don't often get spoken about. Amongst the contracts and the salary wars and the really long hours, there are actually some really interesting, really rewarding bits about working as a lawyer. And I love those bits.
So do you feel like ADHD has put you at a disadvantage, or do you feel like it maybe has benefited your career?
I would say ADHD inhibited me as an employee, but was a huge advantage as an entrepreneur. Definitely, I think that's quite a common theme that people find if they have ADHD, because working in structure is really hard. Working in a rigid model doesn't necessarily work well. That's built for neurotypical people, which most law firms and corporate structures are built for neurotypical people, and they're very hard to flex. They don't have a lot of flexibility. There's not a lot of opportunity to cater systems or processes or targets around the ADHD brain, or I found that anyway. This was a while ago that I was in practice, and actually I didn't know that I had it then. I didn't get diagnosed until after I left practice. But it really suits entrepreneurs, and I think lots of people who have ADHD are entrepreneurs, because they can build their own framework around their strengths and weaknesses, which are actually quite different to a neurotypical person's strengths and weaknesses, and how we like to work. And we can build teams that support us with the things that we're not so good at, and the systems, and we can live our lives and create our days around the way that we need to work. You know, we can rest at odd times, and we can work at odd times, like the middle of the night. And actually that works really well. When you can really cater to your ADHD, then it's a real asset to have. But when you're forced into kind of a neurotypical mold, it can feel like a real disadvantage, because you're not working to your strengths, you're constantly working against them.
Yeah. And I watched, this video surprised me, but the other day on Instagram, I saw this video of Stephen Bartlett, so a UK entrepreneur versus a US entrepreneur. It was like a weird skit video. And the interviewer was like, Stephen, what are you doing at 6 a.m? And he's like, sleeping. USA guy, what are you doing at 6 a.m? Awake, meditating, gymming. And then it just went on and on. And she was like, Stephen, what are you doing at 7 a.m? Sleeping. What are you doing at 8 a.m? Check my phone, go back to sleep. Stephen, what are you doing at 9 a.m? And his point was basically that he might not wake up earlier, but he doesn't go to sleep until later. And one thing I've had my whole life is that I cannot wake up in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I've in my diary every day blocked out until 11. Do not talk to me. Don't put a meeting in with me. That's me time. But I'll work until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I like that. That's just how I work well. I do a bit of work in the afternoon. I have a break and then I work again instead of doing it all in one block. So I feel like actually I really enjoyed hearing like such a successful entrepreneur do the same thing that I do.
Totally. I mean, there's not a one size fits all approach. I think we've heard of entrepreneurs like 4 a.m. club. You're up your ice. You've got your ice bath.
I'm sorry, I still don't believe that anyone does that.
No.
I think it's all a load of baloney.
No, well, I think maybe some people do. Yeah. But the fact is, you've got to base it.
I actually think they don't. I think it's all a load of shit. I think some days you might get up at 4 a.m, but most days you probably wake up at 8.
I mean, that might be true. Yeah. You never really know, but different people have different circadian rhythms, and they have kind of different nuances to their brains. So actually, it may be that some people do really well getting up at 4 a.m, and that's actually really productive. But it's also entirely possible that people don't have that same circadian rhythm. I actually studied circadian rhythms in my biology degree, which I did like a mini dissertation on it. It's fascinating because everybody's is different. So the fact that the general working week is 9 to 5 is a nonsense, because actually that's probably going to suit half, maybe less than half of your staff realistically, because everybody's going to have a different circadian rhythm, and everyone's going to have different commitments and different times where they work. So it just doesn't cater to those people. But there are many successful entrepreneurs who don't follow that model. And actually, really, I think the most successful people are really, really in tune with their own biology and their own body, and really capitalize on what works for them. Because I think that's really the key. From really successful people that I've spoken to, they're not necessarily the best at everything, but they know what they're really good at and what they're not so good at, and what favours their body and what doesn't.
That is a great skill as well, is learning.
Self-awareness is the self-awareness and the discipline to actually act on that awareness, because people focus a lot on the awareness, but then what people don't focus so much on is actually then putting into place things around that awareness, because you can be aware that your house is burning down, but if you don't actually then exit the house, you're still going to burn down with it. You've got to have the awareness and the discipline to work around your awareness.
And I think something I really struggled with when I started running a business was thinking I can do everything. Like, I'd hear everyone say, oh, you can't do everything, other people are better than you. But I was like, no, I can do everything. And I say only really in the past year I've learned, actually, it's much better to pay someone to do some of my other work and some of my jobs that they can do. Maybe not better than me, but as good as me, than have it all on my plate, pile up, stressed, implode, you know the drill.
I'm getting to that stage. I'm just hiring 2 people at the moment, because I've got to that stage where I'm like, I need to outsource more. And it's really tough, especially if it's when it's your baby. It's an investment. Yeah. And you don't want to give bits of it away, and you feel like you should be able to do everything because you're the founder. But actually there's a lot of strength and wisdom in actually saying, I need to free up more of my time. So I should delegate rather some of those tasks to other people. But it's tough, but it has to be done for growth.
I think like hiring people is such a stressful process and it's so time consuming, but the payoff you get from that is immense. Like, you can do an interview process alone is like a month. Interview everyone, do a second interview, blah, 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 send them tasks. Then you have to hire them. So that's another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months where they're taking up your time, you're training them. But then in that 6-month period that you've invested all that time into, you get such a bigger payoff afterwards. So it's so painful and it's expensive, but I'm trying to learn more that it's really worth the hassle.
Ditto. I'm on that journey as well and finding the same thing.
So now for my favourite segment of the podcast, what is in a lawyer's bag?
What is in a lawyer with ADHD's bag? Because I think that is quite key to what's in my bag right now. I have not 1 but 2 bottles of water, because always necessary to stay hydrated.
Put this up, Pat. And what bag is this?
I also have a bag. Yeah, this is a Louis Vuitton. Although I'm really sad because I've just seen that it's broken.
Oh.
Today, look at this. This strap's broken. I'm gutted. I'm really gutted. But I think they might be able to fix it.
Yeah, take it back.
Yeah, this is a never full, and it's totally full. It's totally full. Liars. So I've got a bag within a bag, obviously. I've got 2 bottles of water. I've got a makeup bag for travelling, which doesn't close. But look, there's my mouth tape.
There's her mouth tape. She wasn't lying.
So look at this.
YSL mascara. Oh, there's a lot of things I use in here, actually.
Yeah.
I've influenced you. YSL mascara, that's great.
Absolutely.
Oh, is this the La Roche-Posay?
The La Roche-Posay
SPF. Aquagel.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about this SPF.
It's amazing.
Like a gel with
it's really
SPF
nice.
50. It's so good. I used to use this years ago.
I put it under all my makeup every day. Got some hair oil.
Got Kerastase.
Yeah, I think that did come from you, actually. I think that one definitely did come from you.
I love this so much. What's this? Medicate.
Yeah,
Hydrate. You've just got the most amazing skin.
I do.
Like, what skincare?
Oh, there we go.
L'Oreal Revitalift Retinol.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan.
I'm like, what else? What other skincare she got on
Actually, this is another holy grail, the Embryolisse cream.
This?
No, the one this is Huda Beauty put me onto this, actually. This is like the best thing to put under makeup, and it costs like £15 from Amazon.
Wow.
And she always uses it as her primer. Super hydrating.
Amber-Release cream.
Yeah.
Love
It's
that.
amazing. Yeah, I love that. Of course, it
What
doesn't
else
close.
is in that bag?
Got foundation. It's everywhere. Doesn't close. Passport.
Oh yeah, always need that because you're always
Passport.
travelling.
Oh, this. I really like this at the moment as well. Another TikTok shop buy. Nump. Hydrating. It's like a hyaluronic acid lip balm that I take
treatment.
everywhere. I'm so TikTok shop fiend. I buy so
you?
much stuff off TikTok shop. My TikTok shop basket is just constantly full.
Really?
Yeah,
I only buy from TikTok shop Rose and Caramel Tan Remover and Perfect Head Matcha.
You've got a lot more discipline than me. As soon as I see a video about something, I'm like,
Well,
yeah,
it's easy.
get that in my
Put
basket.
it in, Apple Pay, and it's done.
It's scary.
There's a lot going on in
There's
there.
a lot going on. Some teeth whitening paste. I think I've got some sunglasses in there.
And that is what's in a lawyer with ADHD's bag.
Yep.
So who is the most famous person you've ever worked on a plastic surgery case for?
Obviously, I can't say the name of who the actual person is, but they are a British TV personality that you would know. Most people would know.
Any more?
No.
She's a lawyer. I don't even know why I bothered asking you. Obviously not. If you were going to a desert island and you could only take one beauty product with you, which one would it be?
I don't know if it's classified as a beauty product, but I am obsessed with mouth tape at the moment. Beauty
Okay.
mouth tape. And I forgot mine recently and I couldn't sleep without it.
Really?
So actually, if I was going somewhere and I needed to sleep, I would need to take my mouth tape. And I've got this one that I bought off TikTok shop, which has collagen.
collagen. I knew you were gonna say that.
The Sleepy Girl Girl
Yes.
one. Amazing. I'm obsessed with it. I wake up with such amazing hydrated lips.
Wow.
And I'm convinced it's also helping my jawline, which is why
You got
I
a
got
great
into it in the
jawline.
first place. Well, thank you.
And my last question for you before we finish, is there anything you regret not doing in your career so far?
I potentially regret not starting my own business earlier,
Okay.
but I also am a big believer in butterfly effect, and I'm really happy with where I am now and where everything's going, and there's no guarantee that I would be where I am now if I changed anything along the way. And I'm sure I've gained a lot of extra experience by staying where I was. In the back of my mind, that's what I always think maybe I should have jumped earlier, but I wouldn't want to change anything about where I am now.
Chrissy, thank you so much for coming on. That was so interesting, and I feel like that was like one of the most valuable podcast episodes we've had yet, and I knew you were just going to be fabulous. Thank you so much for watching Passenger Princess, and we'll see you next time.